was a creative storm going in my head all the time. And that would just be completely spoiled if half the time I was just watching Cocomelon. You see a parent just like, no, stop doing that. You gotta tell your kid ahead of time what it is that they can and cannot do. Otherwise, they're just constantly being like, oh, I didn't know I couldn't do that. It isn't, at the end of the day, just a little small thing, but a lot of little small things added up becomes a big thing. And that big thing is what allows you to just kind of explore the boundaries of life. That process involves an experimentation that involves sometimes making a big mess. That sometimes means wasting a bunch of time doing something stupid, and then you realize, oh, that was stupid. Why did I do that? But that in and of itself is the process of childhood. Recently, we have been seeing a lot more little babies, and that has started with in our neighborhood. There's a little... There's like 2 or 3.
He's 2 now.
Yeah, and he is so adorable.
He's very cute.
And we have been very much enjoying hanging out with him. And we've also been teaching around a bunch of 5-year-olds at our Taekwondo studio. And that was kind of when we started getting a handle on what 5-year-old really is.
Yeah.
Of course, we were 5, but as a 5-year-old, I remember you were saying when you were in kindergarten, you were like, when I'm older, I'm going to respect the kindergartners. And then you're older now, you're like oh, no.
Nope.
No.
Okay, so I was walking down the hallway, right?
Yeah.
I was in kindergarten, and the 6th graders were walking the other direction, right? And I look at them, and I watch them all ignore us and just talk their little talks and feeling the injustice. And I'm like, I deserve respect. When I'm a 6th grader, I'm going to respect the kindergartners. And I wasn't even thinking about why. What did I do to deserve respect? I was just like, I'm going to respect them.
Yeah, because we deserve respect for some reason.
Yeah. I thought I was so mature.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. When you're 5, you think you're really mature. When you're 3, you think you're, the height, everything,
I remember, apparently there's a story when I was 3 or something. I was like, I know everything. And then our dad was like, no, you don't. No, you just started crying. I'm like, yeah, I know everything. And then he was like, Daddy doesn't even know everything. And then I was like, oh, it blew my mind.
I've never heard that story.
Okay, I remember him telling it a long time ago, and I remembered it totally wrong.
But... Okay, I remember in kindergarten, I knew the perfect response to people saying that, because in kindergarten, people said that all the time.
Right.
So there was a dude in my class.
Yeah.
And a little 5-year-old little dude.
Right.
And he was like, I know everything. And I was like, what is 358 times 400 or something like that? Right. And that was when you're in kindergarten, that is completely
you're just
there's no way you would ever understand.
You could have given him a calculus equation, it would have been the same.
Yeah, exactly. And then he was like, and I'm like, see, you don't know everything. I felt so smart.
Right.
I felt so smart. But anyway, my point is that at every single age, especially when you're a little kid, that's all you know.
Yeah.
That's and you think you're super mature. You think you're the most mature of everyone. You can't comprehend that someone else has more knowledge or experience than you do. You can't comprehend what that would be like.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, because you don't have that experience.
Right. Yeah.
And so I'm just now starting to gain a perspective on my younger self. And how, deserving of respect my 5-year-old self really was.
Right. And also reflecting back on our younger years, because there's so many things that we did. And I remember there's a transition phase out of it, where I remember we used to play this game called Jobs, where we would pretend that we had all these part-time jobs because we were super rich, because that's what you do when you're super rich, is you have a bunch of part-time jobs.
It made so much sense. It's just the more jobs you have,
the more money
you make.
Duh. Yeah. And there was a point in time where you still liked playing Jobs, but I grew out of it, and that was very sad for you.
I was so sad. I remember driving in a car with mommy, and we were going off to do something.
Yeah.
And I was pouring my heart out to her. I was like, Sumi doesn't like to play with me anymore, and I still like to play Jobs and these games, but I feel like I can't play with anybody because Sumi don't like to play anymore. And I'm
I'm so sad.
And then I said something like that.
Right.
And then it was heart-wrenching for me.
Yeah. I mean, because
how does that make you feel, huh?
I'm just kidding. Yeah. Well, I mean, we had so many different games that we play, and it helped me kind of try to like think and remember some of these, because we're seeing a lot of like little kids now, and just kind of like because at first you just think that whatever's going on with you, that's just everybody, because that's just kind of what you're doing. You're not even thinking about everybody. You're just thinking about yourself, and you have your experience when you're a little kid. And now I'm being able to just see more like in terms of being able to even like compare and contrast our experiences, because when you're 5, you're not talking to your friends about how their parents are parenting them. You're just talking about like dinosaurs or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
something like that.
Yeah. and so then some of the things, because there's just so many different like games and things that we would play, where I'm seeing a lot of little kids, and they're just like, and their parents just hand them a phone, and they're watching like Cocomelon or something, and it's just kind of sad, because we had so many of these experiences. We both didn't see any screens until we were 5 years old.
Yeah.
And then when we were 5, specifically when I was 8, because then you were 5 and we could all watch screens together.
It was just,
that was when we did a lot of Pixar movies. And,
like Friday.
yeah.
You know?
And it was the
movie.
whole family together, though. And we were all watching the same thing, and we could talk about it. We were experiencing it together.
And then
right?
other than that, no screens.
Yeah. Pretty
much
no screens at all.
The idea of watching a YouTube video was completely like that was never something I ever did.
Right.
And like if my dad put on music or something,
yeah,
and I got a glimpse of his phone,
right,
like for a couple seconds I saw his phone in the YouTube video,
right,
I would feel so guilty.
Oh,
I would
really?
I would be like, oh no, stop it, Isla, that's bad. I don't really know why, because you don't really understand why at that age, but
right.
But I was like, no, that's bad, look away,
right,
look away. Like that was like forbidden.
Right.
Which makes it sound dramatic, but it was just not part of our lives.
Yeah. And then whenever like we were at restaurants, there so many restaurants, they just have TVs, and we would always just try to position ourselves so we're not staring at the TV.
Yeah.
Because it was so like, we'd be there as a family, and then if there's a TV right behind your dad's face or something, then you're looking at your dad, and then you just go,
yeah,
right. And
I remember that happened all the time with me too.
Yeah.
Like I would, if I ever started looking, then my dad would be like, Isla, sit over here, let's switch spots. And then I'd feel really guilty again.
Well, it was also like, we knew that it was also not that enjoyable, because it would literally, you would just be like zombie-eyed staring at the TV.
Yeah.
And you don't even know what you're watching. It's some like vacuum ad. You don't care about vacuums.
Usually
right?
it's like vacuum ad, or okay, this still happens. Like I still get mesmerized by TVs.
Yeah, you
like
just go,
it's like,
you're just staring there like,
what is it? Like it's, yeah, exactly. Like what is it? You're not even watching anything. But okay, here's the thing about,
or even just like the weather report, and we don't care about the weather.
Yeah.
It's like the most boring thing ever.
Or like
but it's still
football. Like I don't know how football works. I don't like football. It's just like a bunch of men in spandex tackling each other. Like I don't know what's going on.
It's still
There's no reason why I'd be interested in it, but it's still.
And then we all know that you're watching it. If you go glaze
everyone knows. Everyone knows if someone's hypnotized by the TV.
And now it's literally like you're intentionally putting in front and Cocomelon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like all of my like, you know, childhood memories of like playing all these games, and like there was a creative storm going in my head all the time. Yeah. Like I very much look forward to all the games we were doing. Yeah. Like it was so enjoyable for me. And that would just be completely spoiled if half the time I was just watching Cocomelon. Right. and if
the other half of the time you're whining at your parents to give you Cocomelon.
Oh, to give you Cocomelon. Yeah. And then, you know, the other half of the time I'm just like, lollipop, or like something. Like another thing is like we didn't get a lot of like sugary, like that was also something that was not super part of our lives. And then, you know, if you're just focused on Cocomelon and lollipop, then you can't enjoy these things. It's spoiled. It's spoiled. And we were at dinner like you know, a few days ago with some people, and there was a little 2-year-old and she was watching a phone and she didn't eat anything the whole time. Like she was just playing with her food, like dumping salt on it and stuff. And then She didn't need anything.
Yeah.
And she was watching the phone, and then we took away the phone, and she was upset.
Yeah.
She was like, "Give me phone, give me Cocomelon."
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this is what are you doing? Like me as a 2-year-old, I mean, I don't remember. I was 2, but maybe like 5-year-old, my 5-year-old memories.
Yeah.
If I was at a table with a bunch of like older people and older kids, I would be very in the moment. Like I would want to represent the 5-year-olds.
Protect yourself.
Yeah.
When I am that age, I will show 5-year-olds some respect.
I'd represent for the 5-year-olds.
Yes.
No, I wasn't thinking about that, but I would be very in the moment,
Right?
because Cocomelon wasn't an option.
Yeah, then everything else becomes a lot more like you're so much more aware and in tune of like I'm around these people and these new people and I want to like understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Right.
And even for like older kids, like, you know, more than 5 years old or something, like I'm kind of, now that I have a little bit more perspective, I'm looking at this and I'm like, it just seems like they're so reactive to like phone, Cocomelon, lollipop. Like it's not about like, with me, we always were just thinking of things to do. And one thing we were realizing is that also like, especially our dad, because he did like a ton of free play growing up, like, you know, on a tree farm, and there's a lot of things that he was like building a lot of things. Like that's a great avenue for actually having some way to express your creativity if you like have tools and you're allowed to use them, which now it's like, you know, kids don't even learn how to like cut an apple at 10 because their parents are all worried about them like cutting themselves, when it's like, and like, why would you want to cut an apple if you can watch YouTube? Like, it's just, it's not.
Yeah,
I feel like if you're watching YouTube all the time, it's just like if you eat lollipops all the time, you're not going to be super interested in fruit.
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't seem as interesting. If you're watching YouTube all the time, like, or, you know, or at least like brainless YouTube, then even just a screen is so much more interesting than like looking at a painting or like just looking at the wall. Like I remember when I was 5 years old, I could just zone off staring at a wall or a clock. Like my dad told a story when he was like, I don't know, how old was he in that story where he was looking at the clock?
I have no idea.
You know, he was young.
He was just staring at the clock, and then the hour of the clock just like moved, like he got like hypnotized, and then later on he realized like I was sitting there for like 2 hours. But that's just something that it's just a lot of what it is, I feel like, is you learn agency. You know, you build something in you, you know, because you as like
where you decide what to do,
and that's how you become a person instead of a tube of like just give me Cocomelon, like
Cocomelon or cookies, Cocomelon or cookies. It's just, and you become a Cocomelon cookie machine. You know, it's just like every single second of your life is just devoted to
find a Cocomelon or find a cookie.
Find a cookie. Find a Cocomelon. You know, it's like, give me phone. Give me this. Give me that. Instead of, what do I want to do?
Or at the very least, it diminishes so much of the magic that we experienced when we were just coming up with so many like random weird things, where I just like decided to like make a little like bell contraption where if you open the door, then I had a bunch of string all around my ceiling and it connected to it was way more complicated than it needed to be. But I was just trying to come up with something, and then we had like this play equipment outside, and I just used a bunch of ropes to make a bunch of pulleys.
And I thought that was amazing. So cool. Like at my age, looking up to Big Sister, I was like, whoa, that's so cool.
And we would be like, okay, we got this pulley with a bucket, put some rocks in there, and I'm gonna pull it up. Wow, down the rocks over here. Like, wow, so cool. You know,
and also like when kids are actually playing outside, I feel like there's so many rules and restrictions that parents will put. Like we were at a party, like a neighborhood party, just in a fenced-in backyard. There wasn't anywhere the kids could really go that would be dangerous.
Right.
And yet, when it started to get dark, the parents said, hey, you can't play hide and seek because it's dark.
Right.
Like, what are they gonna do?
Yeah, what are you gonna do when you're in the dark and then you don't even know how to like navigate in the dark because you've never been in the dark? It's like there's so many things
Like,
that are
also, like, what are you gonna do? Like, there was so much magic to playing in the dark when you're little. You're like, whoa, look at this, the grass looks all different in the dark, and whoa, look at the stars, and like, flashlight tag. I can imagine doing that. My dad would tell stories of like how he'd play flashlight tag when he was a kid.
Sneaking around in the dark, like we had all this bamboo and just being able to
in our old house,
just like
we had bamboo in the yard.
It's dark out.
Yeah, it's so amazing. And I mean, I don't have the experience of like what looking at this stuff would actually have, how it actually would have affected my experiences. I don't have that experience, but based on what I know about it and based on the experience of like me being older and like what happens if I just like become a zombie for a couple hours or something.
And even me like putting a bunch of pulleys on our play equipment, like it looked really ugly, I'm sure. Like in terms of just me putting a bunch of stuff and trying to do something. But there was no rules of like, oh, this looks ugly, like the neighbors are gonna come over, so you gotta like take that stuff down. It was like, no, I could just keep building on it and I could keep doing what I wanted. And
part of that was our unique like childhood, not really unique, but different childhood experience.
Because both our mom grew up in the countryside of China and our dad, was raised by Amish grandparents, so it wasn't like a big focus on looks. But that is actually a huge thing, because part of it is that if you're just trying to optimize for like making my kids look good in front of other people or making our house or our yard look good in front of other people, that limits your options so much.
Or to just like worry about looking like a good parent.
Right.
Like if the kid's in a fenced in backyard. Right.
Yeah.
It's dark, but it's just some grass and some trees. Like, what are they gonna do? It's not like they're gonna they're gonna die because they bumped into a tree. Like what are you worried about here? Like I feel like there's so much magic to that freedom. I remember where it's like I actually kind of miss it sometimes. But I was like wandering through the bamboo,
right?
And like, oh my gosh, like a flashlight was so magical when you were like 5. Like, whoa, like, look at this thing. And then exactly. And I and food.
You just spend like 10 minutes just making the light go big, small, big, small, big, small. And you're like, let me do a big, small, big, small over here. Big, small, big, small.
Yeah. And then also like food, like we were told to try food. Like we weren't allowed to just be picky and not try anything when we were little. And and
it was also like a sort of thing where it wasn't just accommodate, like it was like you eat at meal times, and if you're just not gonna eat, that's your fault. And like, we're not just gonna like start grabbing everything out of the fridge and finding another meal for you because you just like didn't go ahead and eat what we had when we put it out there and we all had meals together.
I feel like there was just so much more agency expected of us than I'm seeing now. Like at 13, I'm looking back and I'm seeing these 7-year-olds, and I remember what it was like when I was 7. I have memories. And I also see videos, and it's just so different. And I'm like, what's going on here? Like, like
just to have a lot of it was consistent rules and very just clear. There were certain principles, like you're not going to disrespect anybody, you're not going to like, obviously just things regarding safety, like we knew from a very, very young age, like look both ways before you cross the road, double check for cars. Like that was something that was just really, really clear. Like
it was really consistent. And clear, consistent rules.
And so we didn't have to
you can move within those.
And then we didn't have to worry about, oh, maybe I want to do that, but like I don't know if it's so inconsistent if my parent's gonna yell at me. And there's so many times where you like, you see a parent just like, no, stop doing that, when it's like, you got to tell your kid ahead of time what it is that they can and cannot do. Otherwise, they're just constantly being like, oh, I didn't know I couldn't do that. And then they are constantly worried that they're doing something wrong.
And if it's like so arbitrary about like if you're around your parent or not, like what you're allowed to do, then it's just going to become about pushing the boundaries versus working within them. Like, when we were little, we had chives growing in our backyard. I was gonna
just like
mention
random like wild onion little chive things.
Yeah. And we thought it was so cool to eat the little chives.
Yeah.
And like,
it probably didn't look very hygienic to a parent.
We did wash them.
We did wash them.
Maybe there was a little dog pee on them, but we were fine. You know, it's also like there's
that is not a good example.
No, actually, it actually is, because you think about kids having all these allergies. A lot of it is because they don't expose themselves to a lot of like stuff. That maybe you eat a little bit of dirty stuff, you get a little tummy ache, and then your body's stronger. Like, it actually is really important when you're a young person to expose your immune system to stuff. Yeah. Otherwise, your body just becomes so weak, and that is something that's like.
And then we also had like a good idea of what was dangerous.
Yeah.
Like, well, we had to wear shoes outside because there might be like a little sharp thing.
Yeah.
Like, we knew that.
Yeah.
That made sense.
Yeah.
But the chives aren't dangerous. You know,
we knew they were edible. You know.
Yeah. And also the like the dark isn't dangerous in our yard. Like, you know, you have all these kids. I never really had a problem with like thinking there was a monster under my bed.
Right.
You know, but if you have kids that that are like afraid of the dark,
right?
Like, you know, you don't allow them to go in the dark because it's like, oh, something might happen in this backyard that, you know, you've been in all the time and you know what's going on here.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
Of course you're going to be scared of the dark. It's like, what's going on in there? What do you mean, Mom? Can you give me a bit more information here?
Is the tree going to reach out and smack me?
Just like grab you and throw you into the sky. And then you're going to die. Like, what do you think a little kid brain's going to come up with if it's not allowed to go in the dark? You know?
Yeah, no, that is a really good point. And and I think that's a huge part of what we were really allowed to do, is just like, okay, you know, that there was also a lot that was like just expected of us in terms of like, hey, you're able to operate and be responsible with these sorts of things. So then we felt really capable to do things, you know, when like our dad would just like pull out a whiteboard and start teaching us stuff, and I knew like, hey, I can just teach you things. That's something we did all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't know what to do. I would just plan a lesson for you. And I did that from the time you were like 3 and I was 6. And I would just teach you like basic addition and subtraction. And then.
And obviously, like, a kid doesn't need to be expected to that. Like, you didn't.
There was no expectation, but there was a sense of responsibility. There was a sense of you can just go do things.
And kids get excited about imitating their parents. Kids, like, why do you think people, well, I mean, I don't know if kids do that these days with all the Cocomelon and the cookies, but like when I was little, family. That was such a popular game. Yeah. No one wanted to play the husband because it was only girls playing family. But like if you were late to like joining in the game or something like that, you got to be the husband. And everyone wanted to be a pet too. I wanted to be a dog. But anyway, you're imitating. That's what you're doing. Yeah. But these days, what are the kids supposed to imitate? Like that's what they're seeing these days. So of course they're going to be watching Cocomelon. That's what
their parents are doing.
That's what the parents are doing. With our
the parents are also watching Cocomelon. We're like, what the? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. well, you know, with our parents, they would always be like our dad would make forts all the time. Yeah. Like he would, you know, maybe not all the time, but he would make a fort with us.
He would show us a lot of ways in which we could play, and then once you have enough data points of like, here's this with different sorts of things you can do, then you can start to actually even be creative. But if you don't even know that you can like take because usually like you have a house.
It was my dad who showed me how to make a little ship out of Legos and go and I did that for so many years. That was like a go-to thing. Make a cool ship that looks like something like something out of Star Wars, and then go and then run around the house going and that was so much fun. I learned that from my dad. You know, the parents are the one that should be like showing these kids like, hey, like you know, Well, the kids need to know like they can even start to do certain things, right? Because you think of like a normal house has like a way that where the furniture is set up, and then it's just like the furniture is just always like that. So then how is a kid supposed to know? I can just like take the furniture and make a little house sort of thing.
Yeah.
Right. And we had a bunch of like, our dad helped us make really epic. Like we had a whole 2-story castle.
Yeah.
That he made out of a bookshelf with like some 2x4s, and then there was a ladder, and it was like super cool, and there was a slide coming down
in the basement.
And then there was another one where we had a table, and there was a table on top of the table, and it was like this whole thing that we did.
Like I learned to see furniture as material. Material to make my dreams come into life and make me feel like I'm a, like one time my friend came over, and I couldn't have been more than like 6 or 7. Mm-hmm. And we had this big ping pong table that was folded up.
Yeah.
And me and my friend, we spent basically the whole time just like edging this ping pong table across the room, across the basement, and laying it up where it was, and not only that, but also edging a mattress across that, like in our basement. We just had like a big mattress hanging up against the wall.
I learned how to move really heavy furniture from when I was super tiny, and now I can see so many parents, they would see a little tiny kid trying to move something like that. It could fall on you. Like that's kind of, like that could be dangerous, right?
We were being careful.
Well, we learned how to be careful. We learned how to manage things that were way bigger than us.
Yeah, and
right?
also like obviously the first time I tried doing something like that, like the first few times, like my dad was there, you know, my parents were there, my mom was there, and
and he would explain like, hey, if you do this, it's gonna fall and you're gonna go splat. So don't do that. You know?
We learned. Okay, we actually had a game where there's this mattress, and my friend and I, we'd put it up against the wall.
Yeah. And then you'd run off the side.
Wait. Let me tell the story, okay? And then what we'd do, and then we'd tug it down, and then while it was falling, we'd lay down on the ground so it'd go splat on us. Splat on us. And we called it the sandwich game. Yeah. And it was so much fun. Let me tell you, we had a blast.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
That same mattress,
but we learned
like running on the side of it. And that takes some like balance and some skill, you know? Yeah. Until we became too heavy to do that.
And then okay, and we learned to do that with the mattress, not the ping pong table. Obviously. Like we knew how those things work.
Isla would not be here with us today if it was the ping pong table.
But it was like it was so much fun. Like we made this giant fort with the ping pong table and the mattress.
Yeah.
And then we'd have all these Nerf gun bullets like spread around our basement.
Yeah.
And then I took all the red ones and I put them in a pile, and that was our campfire. And we were going camping.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun, and I don't see these kids doing this anymore.
Yeah.
Part of it's the restrictions.
At least
part
not
of
as
it's
much,
the part of it's the Cocomelon.
Yeah.
But a combination of that is just gonna like.
Part of it is just the
agency.
Part of it is just the free time. Like even in elementary school, there's more pressure on these kids to like do homework and stuff. And it's like that's the time when it's like what you're learning is you're learning agency. You're learning how to like come up with these things. You know, there's just so much potential in terms of just knowing like I have these things at my disposal. I can just make something. I can just do something.
Yeah.
And even something like we had this giant love sack pillow. And I would just move it around when I was 7, and it was like really heavy. But now like parents will just go like do that for them. You know, they'll like see a little tiny kid with this giant pillow and like pulling it across the room. Like most parents who would just love their kid, right, will just be like, oh, hey, let me do that.
Or they'll be like,
right,
don't move that. It belongs over there.
Right. Yeah, and then it's
or they'll do that.
Right, and then we don't get to do our little like obstacle course where we run across the mattress and jump onto the table and jump onto the love circle, you know. And there's just so many things that we could do with that. And then and also like the expectations were clear. You know, it was like obviously we couldn't jump onto the dining room table because that's where we ate food. And like, you know, your gross little
feet all over it.
Yeah.
But you know, it was really clear. what the rules were, and the rules were grounded in respect and like consideration for other people. Like, you know, if you're at someone else's house, you're not going to start moving all the furniture around and like leaping all over it. But we knew we could do that in our house because our parents were like fine with it.
Yeah, part of it was also like, you know, we did a whole podcast on our big box house, and now we have like, you know, you just get any out of the box standard house now from, you know, from a contractor in this area. It's going to be a big fancy house. But we really liked the fact that our house that we had was older, and it was just, we weren't worried about like, you know, walking around our own house like we were walking on eggshells, right? We were just thinking like, you know, the house, you should be able to provide a space as a sandbox that where you can see the world around you as things that you can use to build something. Otherwise it's just like, you know, a thing where you can't touch anything, and you're like, you know, you just can't do anything. And then it's like, how are you supposed to get any sense of like, you know, understanding the world around you even? And we're kind of with that understanding, then when you like actually go out into the world, you're not so like, there's this whole understanding of just like, oh, I don't know if I'm allowed to do that. And part of it is like, you know, at our Taekwondo studio, I'm talking with the black belts, and they're like, oh, are we allowed to do that? I was like, hey, look, we're just trying to do the same thing here, you know? And if you don't actually get an understanding of like, what is it that we're trying to do, and what are the boundaries in terms of the actual boundaries of depending on the sorts of goals that you're trying to achieve. Because we create a lot of rules, and they're arbitrary boundaries, and we create arbitrary boundaries because we have certain goals, and it makes sense to not have somebody do this because we have a goal of like not dying, for example. Right? And that's like a really good goal, and so we have certain rules, right? And that's like, okay, that's really important. But then you might think, oh, but then you bend the rules in certain situations of like, maybe there's a rule of like, you know, don't run around with a knife, but like, you know, if someone's attacking you and then maybe you're running around with a knife, you know, there's just different situations. If you can't think about it from an understanding of what is the goal here, and you're just thinking about rules, then you never get to actually do any sort of take on any sort of leadership role, because the whole leadership role is that you're not thinking about the rules, you're thinking about the goals, right? If you're a follower, you're thinking about, you know, how can I just like do the right thing and like not, you know, you're not really thinking about like breaking things. You're thinking about how can we all like work together, right? That's a really good thing to learn when you're younger. You need to learn how to work together and work within like a system and an organization. But then you also need to know how to actually explore things and break things, so you can know what are the boundaries and how you can actually create, so that you can even step into a leadership role like that, you know? And I think that that's part of what, you know, a lot of what we need today is we need creators. And that's part of what you need to help young people do, is like, you need to have certain rules at first so that they like don't kill themselves or do something really stupid. But then you want to like, but I feel like sometimes it gets so literally so rule oriented that like, for example, you have a parent organizing an activity for these kids because the goal is to have fun, right? And then the kids are like doing something different to have fun. And then the parents like, no, we're doing this instead.
Just like shepherding these little kids around.
The whole goal in the first place was to have fun, right? And then it's like they're having fun in a different way, and then the rules trump really the goal, and to be flexible about those things. And I think a lot of this is really just being able to what is required for a kid to navigate the world, because I feel like part of this is just about learning how to take the perspective of the kid, which is that you pop into the world and you don't know what it's about, right? And a lot of what you really need to do is you need to be able to just to do a lot of things, and to do a lot of like weird random things. Like I found this skirt and I was wearing it like a little thing because I just
like a little shawl.
I didn't know what I was doing, and there's a picture of my mom also wearing it that way because I was, and it's just a weird thing that most parents would be like, why are you putting your shirt on your shoulder, your skirt on your shoulders?
Giving them the freedom to actually like do those random stupid things and like figure out it's random and stupid, and then you know, a few months later, I'm like, no, this is stupid, you know? And then, but to go through that own process, otherwise you're literally constantly having to be told whether or not something's stupid. And what if you as a parent, you're wrong? You know, there could be where you're like, oh, my kid's annoying me, stop doing that. What if it was like,
something that could have actually helped them a lot.
Yeah, like seeing it from their experience of also like the magic of childhood. Where it's like when you're in that mindset and you're so curious and you're like, you see like a table and you turn it upside down and you're like, whoa, that completely changed its shape.
Yeah.
Whoa. I did that one time.
Yeah.
And then I made a little hammock for my stuffed animal out of it. It was great. And then so I did that.
Yeah.
And it was magical for me.
Yeah.
And like I don't want to take that away from these little kids.
Yeah, and that's the thing that will sometimes we'll just be around parent, and it's like obviously they're just trying to help their kid, or they'll like get a little bit annoyed and they're just kind of frustrated on edge, and they'll just be like, no, don't do that. The table's supposed to go this way, you know. It's like, and then it just takes away that little.
I wanted a hammock for my stuffed animal. and now the kid's crying, and now the parent gets even more annoyed.
But the real loss is when the child doesn't get enough of those experiences, that they just have all those little moments taken away, you know. And so then you don't have the counterfactual of what those things could have been. And you know, it isn't at the end of the day just a little small thing, but a lot of little small things added up becomes a big thing. And that big thing is what allows you to just kind of explore the boundaries of life and to see, you know, how things, you know, we have a lot of ways, we have a lot of things that we create that have a certain purpose. But that's because somebody had to think of first, hey, there's this problem, there's this thing that I want to see in the world, and then make that, right? And so, and to see that process, and that process involves an experimentation that involves sometimes making a big mess, that sometimes means wasting a bunch of time doing something stupid, and then you realize, oh, that was stupid, why did I do that? But that in and of itself is the process of childhood, right? And I think that's just a lot of what, looking back at our own childhood, that's so much of what it was.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's so much of what I love about it. It was so great.
And it just, you know, you see us like telling all
I mean,
stories.
I'm still kind of a child, but you get what I mean.
But but it is also like a lot of it is in the younger years of just like, you know, even like 3 to like 8, you know, that's a lot of the experimentation and like when those things happen. And I think that's kind of, you know, that's the thing that we look back on and brings a smile to our face, and that's the sort of freedom that adults try to, like, you saw that quote of like, oh, children are happy and you have this childhood bliss, and then you spend all of your adulthood trying to get that back, and you're like, oh, that sounds really sad. but okay, one, you want to make sure that, you know,
the actual childhood have that
the childhood bliss actually occurs, right? And then to actually think about how to maintain that. And that's actually a great opportunity as a parent, is you get to see your child do that, and you get to remember what that's like, and you get to experience it with them, right? But then also oftentimes it's like, then the child's at daycare most of the day, and then you don't see them, and then that doesn't even get to happen, right? And so I think that there's just a lot of like understanding the purpose of childhood, and part of that is understanding the purpose of life, and I think oftentimes adults will forget that this is kind of what we want in the first place, is to have that freedom of mind, right? And so if we can't frame that as even a good goal for ourselves, then we ignore it as a worthwhile pursuit for our children, and then you miss out on this magical thing. And I think that's part of, like, that's why we love stories, that's why we love, you know, these things that remind us of that. But I think that we ignore the ways in which we can actually have them manifest in our life and with our kids and, you know, with our family. And I think that's obviously, you know, nobody's trying to take that away, but I think that it's something that we can work to get back.